Welcome to Walking the Talk, a podcast brought to you by experiential leadership experts called The Wild, where we explore leadership, purpose and resilience through real stories from remarkable people, one conversation and one walk at a time. I'm Robert Lloyd-Griffiths, and today we're taking a stroll through Alexandra Gardens in Cardiff with someone whose life embodies courage, humour and determination. Rosaleen Moriarty-Simmonds OBE, known to most people as Rosie, was born with impairments caused by the drug thalidomide and has gone on to become a powerful voice for equality and inclusion. She's an artist, a broadcaster, disability consultant and campaigner, as well as the author of her own inspirational autobiography, 4 Fingers and 13 Toes. Rosie's story is one of optimism, grit and challenging perceptions, proving that true leadership often begins by example. So Rosie, it's brilliant to be with you today. Thank you so much for agreeing to walking with us. And we're here in Alexandra Gardens, just behind City Hall in the city of Cardiff. And this is quite a special place for you, isn't it?
It is actually, apart from the fact that this park is extremely beautiful. We have our Thalidomide Memorial is housed here, and it's in a beautiful place, very tranquil, and amongst lots of other memorials as well. So it's an important place to me for that particular reason.
And that really takes you back to, well, obviously, your whole life. I mean, born thalidomide impaired, and really your story is one of resilience and triumph over the situation that you were born into. Tell us about those early days.
Gosh, the early days. Well, born and bred in Cardiff to Irish parents who came over. My dad came over when he was 17 for work, and my mum came when she was 14 with her parents. They came for work again. And Cardiff, to me, I've lived in a number of different places, and Cardiff itself is absolutely unique in that it's accepting of everyone, or certainly of most people anyway. And as a child born in Cardiff with completely missing limbs, most disabled people at that stage, I was born in 1960. Most disabled people at that stage were either hidden away in institutions, or hidden away in their family homes. But my parents were very young. My mum was only just turned 18 when I was born, and my dad was 20. And given that they were so young, they could easily have done what the doctors advised them to do, which was to leave me at the hospital, go away and start all over again. Thankfully they didn't, and I think a lot of that is down to my maternal grandparents, who said to my parents, you're going to come and live with us, and we will help you. So I'm eternally obviously grateful to them. Then 16 months later my sister Debbie was born, and it was literally only when Debbie was my mum was in hospital with Debbie. She was approached by the consultant, because of the circumstances in which I was born, more senior doctors were then involved. And he came to my mum with the medical journal, The Lancet, and there was a letter in it from a Dr. McBride from Australia. And he asked my mum, had she been prescribed any medication while she was pregnant, either called thalidomide or Distaval. And she said, well, I had a sleeping tablet by the name of Distaval. And he said, oh my goodness, this could have been the cause of Rosie's impairment. So I was sort of almost 2 by the time the association was made between parents taking the drug and my particular impairments. So if you think, there's only 16 months between Deborah and I, the drug came on the market in the United Kingdom from April 1958 and its licence wasn't withdrawn until December 1961. Deborah was born in March 62. She could also have been thalidomide impaired if my mother had been
carrying on with it. Yeah, unbelievable.
And that could have happened to any of our group. Conceived and born within that time scale. But in terms of living in Cardiff, my parents decided that they weren't going to treat me any differently. And I think they've said themselves, perhaps being young and naive.
Yeah, maybe.
it worked.
Yeah,
so
perhaps.
Wherever the family went, I went. Even if it meant being, hoiked up in your chair up a flight of stairs to the local cinema, or walking in town to the shops. And I was, as a very young child, I wasn't aware of being stared at, but when I got to my 10, 11 years of age, I was very much aware of it, and couldn't understand it because nobody in the family ever treated me any differently. Nobody in the street we lived treated me any differently. So why were these people staring? And that was my first sort of realisation.
It's really important, isn't it, that in the early days, your mum and dad and your grandparents showed incredible leadership.
Yeah.
And it's often the environment in which we are born or we live, our infant nurture, that impacts on the people that we become later in life.
Exactly. I think you're absolutely right there, Robert. Your foundation stones, to the building of your life are absolutely vital and have a huge impact on, how your future goes. If you have, if you're, in a victim of abuse family, or if you're treated badly in any way, then that will have a huge impact on your future. But if equality and inclusion is instilled in you, and you've experienced that from a very young age, then it encourages your own personality and the way you feel for the rest of your life, I guess.
Now, we've known each other for many years, and personality and character shine through from me. I know you as Rosie, a friend, but in those early days when you were different, clearly.
Yeah.
How were you perceived, and what was it like, and how did you build up your own resilience against, the stares, the comments, the negativity that perhaps could surround you for being different?
I think because of the good start in life I had, I continued, and although the first 10 years of my life I spent a lot of time in hospitals having operations, and then at 14 years of age I went away to boarding school.
Wow.
I still had a lot of time with my family, but you had to become independent. And I think I also learned from a very young age that smiling at people goes a long way.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything, and if if people look at you and stare at you, I always smile at them, and then one of two reactions: they'll either smile back or they'll look away embarrassed. And I also learned at a very young age or a realization, and I don't know how, that people are only looking because I am different, and they're curious. It's not that they are feeling vindictive.
No.
And so I kind of not utilised that, but I accepted it, from a very young age, and I realised by being pleasant to people, they're more willing to help you, and if people ask you questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, because it's better than being grumpy or sour, and people perceiving you to be somebody that they don't want to spend time with.
And I'm a big believer in kindness and people being kind to each other and treating each other with dignity and respect. On the flip side of kindness, there's unkindness. And you've experienced some unkindness? Oh
gosh, yes. Flippin' heck. And ironically, from two situations, as a young child out with my sisters and other kids on the street, and children from another area came onto our patch. How very dare they?
Yeah.
But obviously saw me as a target, And they there's quite a lot of name calling and things like that. And my sister and my friends, they just couldn't believe it, because they said, well, why are you saying that? Why are you being horrible? And then it got a little bit physical, and they decided to kick me in the back.
Right.
And it didn't last long, because obviously my sisters and friends, sort of stopped them. But it was an unusual experience that I'd never ever experienced before, and found it difficult to come to terms with. But you eventually do. And the other two situations were, and I'm being brutally honest here with you now, Robert, it's no point holding back, were by people that were in positions of care and shouldn't have treated me in this particular way. Ironically, coming from an Irish family, I actually don't like cabbage.
Okay, fair
and
enough.
I've never been made to eat it.
Yeah.
But I was at a school initially, a school for disabled people, that under one roof you had people with learning difficulties, people with mental health issues, and with people with physical impairments. And a member of staff put cabbage on my plate and I didn't eat it. And she said, you can't leave that, you must eat it. I said, I'm really sorry, I can't. It will make me ill. And she force-fed me with it. Then I got sick and she force-fed me with that as well.
Oh dear.
So that was another traumatic experience. And when I thought, I will never be treated like that again and it be allowed to get away with.
But these experiences stay with you, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Anything that's traumatic will stay with you. Even, being in hospital for many years, on and off, and that was it. I was in London, and my parents were in Cardiff and couldn't afford to visit, only every few months. Sometimes I was there for 6 months at a time, and the trauma, even to go visit somebody in hospital, the smells that are in a hospital bring back memories of my experiences in hospital. And don't get me wrong, they were for the good. I had to have lots of operations on my legs to help me sit up.
Yes.
And various other operations. But that they're for the good. But as a child, it's painful, and you think, why am I being put through this?
Yeah, no, of course.
You don't understand it, and it does stay there. It triggers certain smells or certain sounds will trigger different things from your life.
Obviously, within the situations you found yourself in through your early life, there's a sense of independence of mind, of spirit, and brought on by necessity, really. And that independence, an independent way of doing things, has been a character within your life, or a marker within your life?
Definitely. So at some stages, having to become independent and enjoying that independence then makes you want to continue with that. So, something as basic as being able to use my computer.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was just a boring old typewriter. I just used two sticks, a bit like dowling rod or like two drumsticks to type. Now, thank goodness, with technology, which is brilliant for disabled people.
Yeah.
And I have made great use of technology under any circumstances that I can literally sit at my computer and talk to it, and it'll type what I say. And how brilliant is that?
Yeah.
My whole book I dictated, and so when people read it, it's as if they're having a conversation with me for that very reason.
So, you mentioned your book. I mean, you'll become an accomplished author, artist, motivational speaker, advocate. I mean, there's something within you that goes for something and achieves it and gets it. And is that part of your upbringing, or is that what you've overcome to be able to do that? I
think it's a bit of both, actually. It's part of your upbringing, the foundation that my parents and family gave me, and then you have it in your personality or you don't.
Yeah.
People sink or swim, depending on their personality, I suppose. And I've also fortunate enough to have had a voice, and I've always believed that by having a voice you should use it.
Yeah.
So again, if I just go back and give you an example from the very first school that I was in, there were quite a lot of children who didn't have a voice, or they couldn't or wouldn't speak out.
Yeah.
But I could, and I wasn't afraid to, and so I found myself not just advocating for myself, but for other disabled people as well. And I never found it a duty. It kind of came naturally. And then you just find yourself in situations where you see discrimination.
Yeah.
You can't just sit back and allow it to happen. You have to
Some would.
speak. Some would. Some people would. Yes, you're absolutely right. But I couldn't. And especially if the people who were being discriminated against couldn't or wouldn't speak out for themselves.
Yeah. But that's you acquiring a leadership role, isn't it? You talk about having a voice. Now, the thalidomide impaired community have been hundreds affected by the drug.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that you are an advocate for that whole community and have been for many, many years. Hence one of the reasons why the memorial is here, because of your efforts. Have you assumed that leadership role for that community? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it seems, you have a voice and you've used it advantageously to help and support.
There are thousands of thalidomide impaired people around the world.
Yeah.
And there are hundreds in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
We are quite lucky in that quite a lot of our group are intelligent, articulate, clever people, some of whom have never wanted to mix with other thalidomide impaired people.
Right.
Others who have. For some of them it was difficult to see a mirror image of themselves, but for others they found comfort and solace in mixing with other members of our group. But yes, you're going to get a significant number of us who have advocated for thalidomide people, but not just for thalidomide people, for all disabled people. And I think that's important. If you're willing to advocate for disabled people generally, then clearly it has an impact on our own group. But actually I think our own group, because it was a unique situation, and our parents collectively, I think, or certainly those who kept their children, because about 50% of the thalidomide impaired people were abandoned at birth. So for those whose parents did keep them and nurture and look after them, majority of our group actually went to mainstream school when it was unheard of.
Yeah.
My husband Stephen, who happens to also be thalidomide impaired, he went to mainstream school.
Yeah.
Those of us that didn't were generally wheelchair users.
Yeah.
And we're in the minority within our group, because schools at that time weren't built with disabled people in mind. So we couldn't go to mainstream schools. And I think the fact that our group kind of started the ball rolling for inclusive education helped the ball roll for other disabled people. So we've been kind of forerunners and advocates generally for disabled people.
And does that fill you with a sense of pride that you've achieved so much for your immediate community, but for others who are disabled? It's all about having a voice, using it, and making a difference.
I do feel proud of what we've achieved. I'm always a bit concerned about using that word, for pride before a fall. But yes, sometimes I look back and think, yeah, we did this, that, or the other, and that made a change for the better, and that makes you feel that it was a good thing to do, and it was an important thing to do, and a necessary thing to do. And if it's brought about positive change, then that can only be right, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely, completely. So let's look a little bit back about your career. You went to college. Yeah. And then jobs.
Yep.
And you told me a story recently about when you went for jobs and how you were almost like paraded in order to see whether
Yeah.
people thought they could get on with you, which seems so archaic to me.
It does.
And yet, you know, it's again part of your lived experience.
So-
But take me through your work career. And
My work career. So, having worked incredibly hard to get an education in the first place,
Yeah.
which really didn't start properly until I was 14, and went to Florence to Law School in Alton in Hampshire,
Yeah.
which at the time was the only school that gave disabled people an academic education. Then I went to Coventry, where there was a college for disabled people,
Yeah.
same experience. Then I came back to Cardiff, and my first foray into education alongside my non-disabled peers was, well, it's all houses now, but it was on Colchester Avenue, the
Right.
College of
Yes,
Higher
I remember.
Education.
Yeah.
And I did a business studies course. And at the end of it, I thought I'd better start looking for work now. But one of the tutors came along and said, I think you should go to university. Well, I actually laughed. I said, I don't think I'm, a university calibre. And he said, you absolutely are. He said, but for God's sake, don't do business studies.
Right.
He said, clearly, you've done the course, you've gone through the motions, you've done your absolute best and you've done well, but it's not what I perceive you doing in the future. And he said, he literally sat down and he said, what do you enjoy the most in life? I said, people,
Yeah.
people watching, talking to people. Then he said, I think you should do psychology.
Wow.
So I actually had to go and look it up.
Okay.
I did not know what the word psychology meant.
Yeah.
So I quickly looked it up. Anyway, long story short, I did come here to Cardiff University, and that was a whole experience in itself, being, in front of a panel, and then before, with my fellow students, absolutely fantastic. And
Did
the 3
you
years
you
we-
lived the full student life and you did it
I
all?
did,
And
yeah.
yeah.
I did stay at home then because I'd not long come home from studying away, and physically then it would have been virtually impossible to find people that could help you 24/7,
Yeah.
so that you could do your studies. So living at home was easier, but I still mixed with all my
Yeah.
fellow students and everything.
Yeah.
So you get your degree, which is fantastic, and I thought, right, I've got a passport to the world here now.
Right.
I'm going to get a job, no problem. And oh my goodness, what a landing I had. And I think it was for the first time in my life that I experienced people saying no. I
Okay.
don't mean that in a brat way, because obviously lots of people can say no, no,
Yeah.
you're not staying out till 3 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
from your parents, and no, you can't go and walk along a train track,
Yeah.
It's not that's a very good example, but
I know what you mean.
but I applied in the end for 250 jobs, and I only got 4 interviews.
Yeah.
And then the application forms in that day and age really could have been that it arrived on your desk. Oh, disabled person, that's going to be a hassle.
Right.
It accidentally or otherwise drops off the desk into the bin. Or you got no response, you got no letter, no, dear John, sorry, we're not going to give you the job. But 4 interviews that I did have, one of them, believe it or not, actually my history is that lots of places have been flattened since I left them.
Oh, well,
one,
there you are.
One school,
Yeah.
one college, and Lansdowne Hospital. And by then, that was a job that I was way overqualified for,
Yeah.
that I could have got without going to university. And it all boiled down really, despite the fact that they'd offered me the job, boiled down to the fact that I couldn't take myself to the loo, that I needed help. This is in a hospital though, so I'm thinking, hang on a minute, if you can't find somebody in a hospital to help you to the loo,
Yeah.
you're going to be pretty much in a predicament anywhere else. Even though my mum, God bless her, had said, well, I'll come and help you to the loo wherever you get your job, and that would never have been an issue. And I thought, what is the point of me really, really, really working hard to get a good education if nobody was going to give me a job?
Yeah.
So eventually I did get a job in the civil service. Don't get me wrong, I'm eternally grateful to them for that. I thought, I'll do it for 2 years, get a bit of work experience under my belt, and then see what comes after that. Because obviously I'd done psychology, but I ended up in the civil service not using my degree. And I know that happens a lot with, with lots of people. But once I'd started with a degree, you go in at middle management on the fast track system. And it was wonderful. I thought, oh my goodness, I've got a job, I've got a wage coming in, this is fantastic. And 6 months later, chatting to some people that I got to know and are still friends. I'm very lucky that throughout my life I've met some fantastic people, made an effort to keep in touch with them. And they're still we're still in contact. One of them said to me, she said, I have to tell you something, and I don't know whether you know this. And she said, don't shoot the messenger, but I need to tell you that we know that you came for a number of interviews. I ended up with about 3 or 4 interviews. And the final element of it was to go through the open plan office. And I thought they were just taking me through to see the layout of the land and where my desk might be and things like that. But she said that they had been told in advance that somebody potentially was going to become to work in that office, and but they wanted the rest of the staff to see me, and if anybody was upset by the way I looked, I wouldn't have got that job.
It seems archaic almost to us now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's 1986.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen now. People wouldn't get away with it now because of the legislation.
Of course.
And don't get me wrong, we started off with the Disability Discrimination Act, which was fantastic. We worked really hard to get that. Then it got amalgamated into the Equality Act, and it went right to the bottom. Disability went right to the bottom of the agenda, unfortunately. But even despite that, the legislation is peppered with the word reasonable.
Yeah.
And what's reasonable to one person is not necessarily reasonable to others.
But you've seen these injustices or these injustices, and you haven't kept quiet about them, have you?
Never.
And you've always felt that it's, and quite rightly so, may I say, that it's the right thing to do to shine a light on injustice and change it for the better.
Yeah.
I mean, notwithstanding the law,
No.
you've actually carried a banner.
Yeah. Oh, literally. I mean, in the very early days, to get the legislation, we did things like go to Trafalgar Square and hold a rally, and then unexpectedly somebody say, "Yeah, let's march up Whitehall." Oh, all right then.
Yeah.
And you are literally bringing traffic to a standstill, and the power and you feel empowered, not powerful, but you feel empowered by doing that. And a lot of people who would have been furious perhaps on the buses and in their cars, being held up, the traffic being held up. But when they realise, because by doing things like that, practical things like that, you encourage the press to come along.
Yeah.
And it's only then when people see it on the 6 o'clock news that they realise, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was no legislation for disabled people, or I didn't know that disabled people didn't have a right to an education until 1970, or I didn't know that people could be discriminated against in the workplace. I didn't know that if you went into a bank that you couldn't actually get into because there were steps into that bank, so you had to do your personal banking situation on the pavement.
Yeah.
Things like that. But if people don't know that or have not experienced it, it's difficult for them to comprehend. So that's why it's always important to bring these kind of situations to the forefront.
It's to me, it's a sense of shining a light, but also through your own lived experience, having the knowledge behind it, and a sense of leadership that we spoke about earlier. In a sense, you've had the voice, you've used it, you've shone a light, and you've made a difference, and that's a very unselfish approach to life, really, and yet you exemplify a desire to make things better for others, and that's a common theme and thread in your life, isn't it?
This is it. I mean, I suppose initially you're doing it because you want to make change for yourself for something personal, but then you think the picture's much wider than that.
Yeah.
It's far more important than you as an individual, but it does take somebody to speak out and to start the ball rolling, and then you find others will tag along as well. And it's really important to make positive change, and one person on their own can't do it, but you can make that tiny bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And making that tiny bit of a difference is absolutely vital.
Well, here we are. The sun's just come out. We're in Alexandra Gardens. We're talking about shining a light, and the light comes out. So it must be something to do with you. It's ironic, isn't it? I think it's probably something to do with you, Rosie. And you know, your,
I wish I had
your
that
sunny
power.
disposition, I feel. And that element of public service being really important for you. I mean, I know you, as I said earlier, as a friend for many years, but you know, we see each other most often at Cardiff Business Club. You're a businesswoman.
Sure.
You're an advocate. You're an artist. You have exhibitions. I thought your exhibition earlier in the year, portrait exhibition, was phenomenal. And you know, you've reached the highest levels in society. You've been High Sheriff. I mean, that must have been a very proud moment for you.
Do you know something? That came completely like a bolt out of the blue. And like majority of people, I had seen a couple of people at Business Club and other places who were High Sheriffs, but didn't really know what it was all about and what it entailed. And being asked to become High Sheriff by Brian Lakin, who'd been High Sheriff 3 years before that. That's how the system works. And it was a phenomenal year. It only lasts for 12 months.
Yes, tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So you get nominated by a panel of people, and including the High Sheriff, who's High Sheriff 3 years before you get nominated.
Yeah.
It's a royal appointment.
Yeah.
And you get to wear an outrageous outfit and a
you look very
wonderful
smart
hat,
in it.
yeah,
You look very smart.
with a velvet cape with a frilly, kind of like a judge's.
But it's steeped in history.
thing. It is, absolutely. It goes back to the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
High Sheriff, the term High Sheriff is mentioned 14 times in the Magna Carta. It's steeped in history, and the powers that High Sheriffs would have had back in the day were probably the most powerful role that anybody could have had, because you were judge, jury, and executioner back then. You were also tax collector,
Right.
you know, for the monarchs who could stage their wars and all that kind of thing. Thankfully now it's a far more sedate role, ceremonial.
Thankfully.
The beauty of it is that you get to meet some incredible people, to go to some amazing places, to say that word, or the two words, thank you.
Yes.
And you're saying thank you on behalf of your county. And I say your county because apart from the Lord Lieutenant, who is the monarch's general representative, the High Sheriff is the monarch's representative for the judiciary. Yeah. And that encompasses all the blue light services as well. So to get to go to, you know, spend time in a police station, or you know, to give awards to the police, the fire service, the ambulance service, the RNLI, you know, all the blue light and emergency services, but also to go and give awards, the High Sheriff Award that you can give, you know, to individuals who've done incredible things. And then, you know, one of the fortunate things is you can also sit in court alongside the judges. And I had an incredible experience in all of the judicials, so the magistrates, the Crown Court, the employment tribunals, and the whole lot. You can invite judges to tea. I also got invited to the judges' residence to have tea with them. Yeah. But also, I suppose one of the perks of the job, which is not a paid role, it's a literally a voluntary role. You get to meet the members of the royal family when they visit the county. Of course. So the first person they meet would be the Lord Lieutenant. Yeah. Then they meet the High Sheriff, and so on down the line. And that was just absolutely phenomenal. And I still pinch myself. Yeah. I'm devastated that it's only for 12 months. I'd love to still be doing it.
It's a terrific honour. And then,
it is.
You know, we've been talking about, you know, your life in terms of giving, and an opportunity to raise or shine a light on issues of importance to society through your own lived experience. And that gives you a platform as well, with that opportunity to serve. And I sense that, you know, in true leadership is being able to serve those who you come into contact with.
Yeah.
And that's really an important aspect of leadership, certainly, isn't it?
It definitely is, because you've got your life experiences that you can bring to a leadership role, and you can use that leadership role to encourage others as well. So it's not just about doing stuff, but it's about encouraging others to make change as well. So, you know, I've always thought it very important to encourage young disabled people to get involved.
Yeah.
And perhaps more importantly, young non-disabled kids. You know, I go into schools a lot and talk to them. I literally don't have to say much before the hands are going up in the air to ask
questions.
Absolutely phenomenal. And before you know it, the time is gone. And then you're going out the door and they're chasing after you. I wanted to ask you this, or I wanted to ask you that. One of the funniest questions ever asked by a 5-year-old, clearly at 5, this is really important, you know, how do you pick your nose?
Amazing. Out the mouths of babes.
Hysterical.
Out the mouths of
and
babes.
And then you've got other, older children, perhaps, even 8, 9, 10, and they want to know, well, how do you dress? How do you eat? How do you drive, or do you drive? Well, I used to, but I don't any longer. I didn't lose my licence.
No.
Just it got expensive to adapt a car to the level that I needed. And then you get older children, or even 11-year-olds have said to me, so the people that made that drug that made you like this, do you hate them?
Oh, that's a really...
And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Gosh, what a killer question.
I'm really careful how I answer that.
Yeah.
And I start off, I say, well, hate is a very strong word and not a word I like to use, but I do feel that perhaps they should have been punished, and they weren't.
Yeah.
They got away with it. The court cases that they were taken to on a technical fault in Germany, they got off, and they shouldn't have. But it's just incredible. Children are far more intelligent than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
And they just want bite-sized answers. I've even had children, little ones. I've perhaps been in a shop, Asda, Tesco, wherever, and I felt a tickle on my sleeve one day, on my hand, my arm, and there was a little kid trying to find out what my fingers were attached to.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
I thought that was hysterical,
yeah.
And the parents were like, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, no, please don't be. Because I said, if she's that curious,
yeah,
that's brilliant. I'd rather her do that and ask me questions than, like some parents back in the day, not so much now, they would drag their kids off and say, that's naughty, you mustn't do that, or you mustn't ask questions. I would much rather be stopped and somebody ask me a question.
And in terms of, you said you were born in 1960.
Yeah.
What would little Rosie say to big Rosie? And what would you look back and reflect on your life and say to little Rosie?
To little Rosie, okay. Everything's going to be okay. That you will find somebody to love you.
Yeah.
And not that little Rosie knew where babies came from back then, but you will have a family of your own.
Yeah.
That you will, with all their hard work, get a job, perhaps become a successful businesswoman. Being an artist for the mouth and foot painting artists, which goes back almost 70 years.
Yeah.
Which is very well known by most people. To have that opportunity to work for them. And again, it is a business, it's not a charity.
Yeah, of course.
I'd also say to little Rosie that, you're going to get an OBE and the Queen is going to give it to you. You're going to get a memorial placed for your fellow Thalidomide people and their families. You're going to become a High Sheriff. So little Rosie wouldn't believe all of that. But big Rosie is very proud of all that.
Quite rightly so. And as if by magic, Rosie, we're coming up to that
How fortuitous
very
was that?
same memorial. And you must, again, feel very proud of that achievement.
I do, because so myself and my husband Stephen, who's also thalidomide impaired, and Eddie Freeman, another thalidomide friend of ours, over a bottle of red wine, well, I would be drinking Rosie, they were drinking red wine, one day, felt that all of our group had achieved so much, but we've lost a lot of our members as well. The majority of our parents, have passed on, and along the way, despite the fact and despite everything that we all had to endure, there were some phenomenal people that helped us along the way, and we always felt that there should be a memorial. You hear of memorials and statues and plaques being placed here, there and everywhere. So for 4 years we tried London, because we always felt that it should have been in a prominent place like London, and we just kept coming right up against closed doors, or you might get a door open a bit and then it'd be slammed in your face. We tried petitions, but of course then there was a change of government, and I don't know whether anybody knows that with petitions that you put to the government, if there's a change of government, all that stops and you've got to start from scratch all over again. And so that was a big blow. And then we thought, something, two of us actually, two out of the three of us live in Cardiff and one in Swindon. We're getting nowhere in London. Let's utilise it. As you said earlier, over through life and living here, I've been in contact with so many people at so many walks of life. I mean, homeless people that I talk to point me in the right direction because I'm always getting lost. We know lots of people in education. We know lots of people in the business world. We know lots of politicians. We know lots of councillors. So hang on a minute, let's come back to Cardiff and start from scratch. So that's how another 3 years on, so it took 7 years in total. And we weren't asking anybody for any money either. The three of us paid for the memorial. Yeah. And we were absolutely, that was going to be from day one. Because that's a whole other ball game of trying to get funding from people. A wonderful businessman, Andrew Cunningham, who built a brick wall in our house. We asked him would he do the little pathway, so we needed for wheelchair users and those who couldn't walk across grass to be able to get from the walking path right up to the memorial, or as close as they wanted to. And he did that and wouldn't charge us, which was frustrating. We wanted to. Sure. Said, no, I've known you since you were, a baby. I'm absolutely not going to charge you. That's my little bit. And then Peter Beck, God bless him. Yes. He was the Lord Lieutenant at the time, and we asked him would he unveil it, which he did, and that was literally 2 days before his tenure as Lord Lieutenant ended. Yeah. And he was phenomenally busy, but he was going to do it come hell or high water. So, there was a lot of hard work, but it was really genuinely worth it. And I don't know if you want to read what it says.
What? It's been an absolute privilege to walk around Alexandra Gardens with you, and it's a fitting tribute that we end our chat today here. But I'm going to invite you to read it.
Oh, I'm going to have to go a lot closer then.
Let's go a little bit closer because it is accessible. Let's okay. Read it so that those who listen to this podcast can hear from you what it says.
Okay, so at the top of the memorial stone it says Thalidomide Memorial, and then this memorial is dedicated to all those persons and their families who have been and continue to be affected by the thalidomide tragedy. The memory of the children who did not survive to enjoy a full and rewarding life. The memory of parents and loved ones who gave so much in the care of their children, all who worked so tirelessly in helping and supporting those who sought justice from the episode in history. And it was unveiled by Dr. Peter Beck, who's the Lord Lieutenant of South Glamorgan, on the 30th of June 2016, and our tagline is, "To remember is to care."
Rosie, thank you.
Walking the Talk is hosted by Robert Lloyd Griffiths and created and produced by Call of the Wild, with editing support from Buffoon Media.